Okay, let's just share it on Facebook. So let's just take a moment, settle down, arrive. Okay. Great. So I'm going to disconnect this, and here we are. Okay, so welcome to this another interview in a series of interviews with graduates of our trauma-informed yoga and embodied resilience teacher training and mentoring. And today I have got a real pleasure to speak with Fabi Belgardt. I hope I pronounced your surname right, who is one of the graduates of our training. So welcome, Fabi, and thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Lovely, thank you. So Fabi, let's start with I'd like to just start with asking you about your work and your yoga teaching journey. Could you tell us a little bit? Because it's quite an interesting journey, and I think it will be really useful and inspiring to listen to you talking about it.
Sure. So I started my yoga journey when I was in uni studying social work. So that's my background that hugely influenced me as well. So I started when I was in uni, and I've noticed instantly the benefits for my mental health. So that's kind of why I stick with yoga. I was never majorly into movement, but I was always really into supporting my mental health, and through social work is something I'm really passionate about anyway. So it kind of clicked and worked with yoga, and it wasn't just an exercise, it was a bit more. And then I continued my practice throughout uni, and that was back in Germany. So I moved to the UK about 5 years ago, and pretty much instantly my first decision was to do my yoga teacher training, which lasted a year. And I was so glad doing it, and started to teach a bit on the side. And then I started working here as a frontline worker as well. Working with people with complex needs in the homelessness sector. But the two fields always was quite separate. It was my yoga teaching and then that work. I never quite connected it. And for a while I really enjoyed my yoga practice, but then it came to a phase where I experienced burnout myself in my frontline work. And just felt really disconnected, and had my own few smaller trauma experiences, which really influenced me. And I felt really disconnected from my yoga practice, and I couldn't really find a teacher that I resonated with. I didn't feel quite fitting in yoga classes anymore. I didn't really see the point in the practice anymore at that point. And then did a restorative yoga trauma and restorative teacher training, which started to bring me on that path that I can combine the two paths of trauma, of what I've learned in social work and yoga, that there's a way to get that together, which I really enjoyed. So I started taking that in a lot more, but there was still, I think there was still something missing. There's still a connection point missing for me. And then the pandemic happened. So I just started teaching that, but then the pandemic happened, still teaching a bit online. And then I came across your training. So I'd done the 4-hour CPD one that you did first. I did that first. And it started to click. There was like a connection from the two. So I knew I wanted to do further trainings with you. And eventually it came to the point where I managed to join, because I was still working full time at the same time as well. And that led me to your training, which then hugely influenced what I do now. It kind of connected the two fields for me a lot better, and I found more purpose in my yoga practice again, because it wasn't just, I don't know, it was that process of feeling more seen in my practice, and it was more than just the physical practice again. So I found a lot better connection again to my own practice, and therefore a lot more passion about teaching again as well, because that kind of got lost a bit before that. And yeah, ever since then, I kind of trickle. There's still so much content from the course. I've done it a year ago, still loads that kind of trickles through, but it influences my teaching now that the way I approach it is a lot less about the focus on physical, on the shape that somebody takes, but a lot more about what they feel within the pose, feeling more that inner safety and listening to their needs. And I think that's something I always tried to bring into my classes, but I was never that intentional. And now I know why I bring that in, and it's a lot more intentional, bringing that, listening to your needs, slowing down, why that's important, how that's affecting your nervous system, all those things. So my teaching's gotten a lot more intentional, a lot more focused, and just understanding people a lot better and their background, and bringing those areas together.
Great, thank you. It's very interesting listening to you and your journey, and how, and I can relate to it so much, because you're talking about, doing social care work, working with complex needs clients directly, people who experience homelessness, but very complex needs. I mean, with homelessness, everything else comes with mental health and, physical mental health, relationships problems, all of that, childhood trauma quite often is part of it as well. And then having the yoga practice and not really feeling connected, that the two can connect somehow, because my experience has been very similar. I mean, I've worked in a social care for many years as well, and I had my own yoga practice and mindfulness practice, and the two were quite separate for quite a long time. And watching people like teachers like you who bring it together, and who start understanding how the two can be connected, how that information, your training and your experience of working with clients and your experience, your own practice of yoga, your own experience of practicing yoga and teaching can come together. That's really, really great. And something that you said in here, about having your own burnout. And I wonder whether, this is very hypothetical, but I wonder whether if you did understand and know what you know now, whether that kind of those practices of yoga and embodiment would have somehow prevented that burnout.
Definitely. I definitely think so, because I think I didn't pay, yoga was for me the practice. I did my 10 sun salutations in the morning, but there wasn't any further connection. But I didn't listen to my body in a need of what I actually need, and I didn't listen to or pay attention to my own stress symptoms, or all those things. And I think if I had the knowledge at that time, I would have spotted those things sooner. I didn't have much awareness around burnout and how that stress actually affects you, and those early symptoms of noticing what's going on for you. I think I could have addressed that a lot sooner. And also just the whole practice around how I support myself on a daily basis would have been really different, because I think at the time it did what everyone else does on social media around the yoga world. You kind of do what you think you should be doing. So I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and thought I have to do an hour of yoga and smoothies. So there's nothing wrong with it if you enjoy that, but I didn't, because I was exhausted at 9 o'clock. So it obviously didn't actually support myself in the needs that I had at that time. So if I'd known those practices sooner, how to support myself during the day, before meetings, before I did coaching, so before coaching sessions, how to support myself before and after, I probably wouldn't have felt quite that exhausted in the evenings. So all those things where I withdraw after my work or totally didn't socially engage anymore, I thought that was normal. So I think that the fact of just coming home from work, collapsing on the sofa, not wanting to talk to anyone anymore, I was completely not able to socially engage with anyone. I thought that's just normal because I'm an introvert, and I find social engagement often exhausting, but actually learning, okay, no, that's not normal. Well, it is normal because a lot of people are experiencing it, but it's a normal reaction, but it's not my state. I shouldn't be in that state all the time. and there could be a different state. So I wasn't aware of that for a long time, and I think if I had all that experience at the time, that would have made a huge difference. Yeah,
I really hear that. Again, I can really relate to that. You know, working in a crisis center, coming back and just like, I don't have space in my head to actually even have a normal conversation, because everything is just too much at that point, and have to unwind in order to do another day's work.
Yeah.
And in a sense, there is something really quite sad about it, because you know, if you live your life for a long time like this, that is a really big impact on your health, on your relationships, on the quality of your life. And so I know that you support frontline workers now. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your work and how you're doing it now.
Yeah, so I think through my own experience and having been in the field and seeing so many people with exactly the same problems, it's something I'm quite passionate about. Frontline workers, as well as other people that kind of hold that space of supporting others, because I think even like I think it's a lot of a female problem as well, where we prioritize other people's needs and care for others without holding that space for ourselves. So yeah, I've done some work with frontline workers, which was great, doing stress release courses around that, and the feedback was great, because first of all, holding that space for yourself, and then having some tools to release stress throughout the day. So it's not just, I think I've done a training ages ago where they said after work, just take all your problems and put them aside. And so, well, that's not helpful, because they're still there. So they're actually learning how to work through them. Yeah, it's been great. And I've done some more work recently. And I think it's just that, because I focus a lot on the relaxation part as well. Once people experience that, I was like, oh wow, that was just great, just being able to relax for a change, and taking that process. Again, something I wasn't aware of before is that people don't necessarily be able to relax instantly. So learning that process of how to actually get to that state was really useful. What I bring a lot into my work now. And yeah, so most people I've worked with that were frontline workers really benefited from it, and especially those tools that you can take into everyday life when you are busy, because it's not going to change you. There's constantly stuff going on, and I think it's not realistic to have a weekend retreat every 3 months to recharge, but rather really sustainable to support yourself on an everyday basis is so much more important.
Yeah, I love what you just said. Yes, it's this idea, oh, I'm just going to go for a retreat, and you know, but you might have other obligations and commitments and family stuff going on. And you know, I know that through the many years of working in social care, I didn't go on yoga retreats. Exactly. You know, I practice at home because that, and maybe going to some classes because that was the only thing that I had time for.
Yeah.
And money as well. So that's another thing that comes in. But what I really love about what you just said is, you know, it's being taught by somebody like you who has got a first-hand experience of what it feels like, what it means to work as a frontline worker, and what it means to have this kind of commitments and responsibilities and the workload, and experiencing also how it feels when you hit burnout because of what's happening, because of your work. And then, you know, having tools that really make the difference. That makes a huge difference, being taught by somebody who really understands that, who really knows. It's like, I know this is how it feels. I've experienced that. I'm teaching from this space of knowing. I've been where you are, and now I'm somewhere else. And these are the tools that really help me. These are the tools that you can use. And this is how it works. Don't take my word for it. Go off and try it yourself, and then see how it works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially the part of that relaxation. I think that was something before I experienced it myself, didn't understand. So when I started my own yoga practices, I've just done it. And then I kind of thought I'm probably struggle sometimes to relax, but then I thought, oh, it's probably just me. It's probably just, just my experience. Other people probably don't have that problem. But then where I went through that, my own process of that struggle, understanding it a lot better now, how can I give those support cues to help you to go into that relaxation? It's an awareness that I didn't have before. So shifting that a little bit more than just saying, so and now relax. It's like, yes. Okay, no, it's not complex. It's actually really difficult to relax. and the thing is, where we say trauma, but I think everyone has those. If you experience trauma or not, you all have those same struggles and being stuck in your mind and being like shifting from busyness to relaxation. We all benefit from those cues instead of just saying just relax.
Yes,
so,
and there is so much of that, isn't it? It's like there are certain words that we use that have become so common, and trauma is one of them, unfortunately. But things like relax, just breathe, listen to your body, trust your body. And it's like, if you don't explain what it means and how it feels and what happens physiologically and how to access it, then, people are just like, oh, yes, it must be just me. As you just said, it must be just me. I'm the only one who's not understanding it.
Exactly. That's what also helped that normalizing process. Okay, it's like, you're not alone. We all struggle to relax. It's not just you. But yeah, I mean, I still catch myself while I have moments where it's like, and now relax. But it's like, oh, how can I give another cue? Maybe that helps you to settle in a bit better.
Completely.
Grounding.
Completely. I love that this is such a powerful thing, to be able to really translate it into practical stuff. How can I relax? How do I know when I'm not relaxed? And how can I take little steps towards being more relaxed? And why is it even important? And it's like, I've heard people say, I don't have time to relax, I'm too busy, all of this. But actually, once we understand this is key for your health, for your mental health, for your physical health, for your well-being, for your relationships, for your productivity, for your feeling of connection and passion in life, the quality of life, then it takes on completely different meaning than just relax at the end of your yoga class.
And also shifting that understanding of what does it mean to relax. It doesn't have to be an hour of a practice or that weekend retreat or a bubble bath, or can it be just a tool that you can use before and after meetings with clients, for example, that you can use to ground yourself back and shift your state a little bit again. Because I think that's what people don't, what I never thought about before as well. I thought it was like, okay, after work, I need to have an hour of deep relaxation, which is lovely when you get the time for it, and also really useful. And also what I teach with restorative yoga, but I think it's a lot more empowering having those tools on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So I wonder, I guess the question that I want to ask you now is, how did the trauma-informed yoga and embodied resilience teacher training impact your work? Were there any, I mean, you talked about this already a little bit, but I'd like to ask, was there like an insight or a shift in your understanding, or maybe a favorite practice that you use all the time now?
Yeah, there's so much. And we were just chatting before as well, I was like, I think there's still so much trickling through. So I think it's like taking that process, isn't it? But one thing that always stood out from the beginning was, for me, the daily checking in practice. It made a huge difference to me, because again, I started working in the same way that I was as a frontline worker with yoga. So having those tools to, as well as yoga teacher, because you also hold space for others, to support myself on a daily basis, to listen what's going on for me, to give that space. It was just so many elements of it, like giving that space, listening to myself with curiosity and kindness, and giving myself the same compassion that I give to others, made such a huge difference, and really listening to what I need and not just what I think I should be doing. So now it's shifted completely. It's like, because before I thought, it's like, I'm a yoga teacher, I need to have my 1 hour yoga practice every day. It's like, okay, no, actually just 10-15 minutes today is lovely, and that's enough today, and I might do something else later, and there's other things that I can support myself with. So yeah, that daily checking in practice is something that hugely impacted me and how I support myself. So I think a lot of what I took out of the course was on supporting myself as a yoga teacher. So I don't go into the same rhythm as I did as a frontline worker. But also I bring the same elements into class. So I think it's always, I think one quote you had during the course was with always kind of walking your talk and practicing first what, noticing the benefits myself and then bring it to my students. So I think there's a lot of process throughout the last year where one element after another, and I'll bring more of those things into my own practice, and then when I notice the benefits myself, I'll bring it into my classes. So a lot more focus on that inner awareness, giving more choice to students, and just empowering that inner exploration a bit more for students. So shifting from focusing on just focusing like alignment in a physical pose, but rather it's like, how are you feeling in this pose? So it's like one example I found really good for myself and my own practice was child's pose. Child's pose isn't relaxing for everyone, and it might actually be really vulnerable and exposing. Just having those awarenesses that really shifted for me through the course. Understanding people a lot better and why they react the way they do, how they approach you in class, how they might appear, if they're at a higher stress level or if they're withdrawing, or I can spot that a lot better in classes now.
Right.
But again, it's something that like slowly trickles in. I think if you try to do everything at the same time, it gets really overwhelming at the beginning, but slowly after another. But yeah, definitely the daily check-in practice stood really out for me and made a huge difference to my own well-being as well.
Great. I mean, I really love what you just said, that it is what you're pointing to and, and I've been talking a lot about, which is like burnout is real for yoga teachers.
Oh, yeah.
It's like sometimes there is this assumption that you are a yoga teacher, you're always calm, you're never angry, you just you live the life of bliss, and you just do you teach yoga. It's really great because everybody is seeing those Instagram photos and pictures. And yet I know from mentoring so many yoga teachers and training yoga teachers, and my own experience is that when it comes down to actually supporting yourself from your work, there is that complete disconnect, and that there is a lot of shame and a lot of anxiety and a lot of burnout. And I've seen so many yoga teachers just giving up because, they want to teach, and sometimes they even have got another job. I did it, I know you did it, cut your hours so you can teach a little bit, but you still support yourself. But yet, after a while, it becomes unsustainable because I'm teaching this and I am trying to support myself. And if something happens in the family, I have to focus on that because that's a priority. The teaching takes a second place. And so in order to prevent that, we have to, one, as you were just talking really nicely about, you have to take care of yourself, start with yourself. I've heard so many yoga teachers say, I don't have time for my personal practice because I'm too busy working. Upside down. And two is we have to learn those other skills, the business skills, that how to bring new clients in, how to organize our workload, how to earn money, because if you're going to support yourself from your work, you have to bring money. And I know that you took a step to go fully self-employed recently, and maybe you could say a couple of words about that.
It's been lingering probably for the last 2 years, where I've always loved my other job, but I also just wanted to go for it. Also just creating a life balance that works better for me. So, I mean, it was a bit of a spontaneous decision in the end. I always worked myself down to like 3 days in my other job, but I knew I couldn't focus properly. So I just went for the plunge and left my job in end of January. But it was a good reminder, because I think I came to you around end of last year feeling quite burned out and exhausted again, which was just a good reminder again that it's a constant practice and it's not done and dusted once. So I need to continue to support myself. So now I've shifted quite a lot where how I organize my diary. My main priority is first to book in my holidays and my time off and my practice, and then I'll put my work around it. So I'm a lot more focused on really building a business now that works for me and that's sustainable. Yes, I get distracted a lot on what is everyone else doing and should I be doing something else, but then I come back to our practices of listening to what works for me, because we're all different, we all have different needs and different things work for us. But I think I wouldn't have had that awareness without the training and without knowing how to support myself properly and really listening to my own needs. Yeah,
I love that, and congratulations to say that. It's a big step. I know I did it 6 years ago and it was quite scary and it was hard to adjust. And yet, you know, knowing in your heart that this is the right thing, that there is that passion and then there is that calling and wanting to do it in that kind of way, in a way that is right for you.
Definitely.
And, you know, I loved what you just said. You know, I check in what other people are doing and I should be doing that. And then I come back checking in with myself. Is that right for me? Would that work for me? Do I want to do that? You know, and again, I can really relate to that, seeing other people being successful in other things and doing lots of stuff, and then kind of feeling, okay, I am tipping over into overwhelm. Something is not working. That's not working for me. We have to find our own path, the way that is aligned with our strengths, what we love, what we care about, so we can share from that, you know, from the wholeness of it. And that's why I love your journey, you know, how you, you know, embodied those qualities of really, I trust myself and I'm going to take a risk here, but I know I can do it. And you didn't do it on your own, you know, and I think that that's the thing that, what I see a lot of yoga teachers making mistake, that it's like, I can do it on my own. I just sign up for some free stuff and, you know, they will teach me how to do it. And it's like, I watch what other people are doing. I do the same. And it doesn't work that way. We need that ongoing support and somebody to turn to and say, well, I don't know what to do here. What do you think?
And I was like that. And I always thought, it was like, you know, I can do this by myself. But I'm very, probably some sort of coping mechanism. I'm very independent and it's like, no, I've got to do it for myself because otherwise it doesn't count as my success, which is not very healthy approach to things. But so I always try to do that, and it worked to a certain degree, but it didn't anymore at some point. So I think it's a lot shifted when I started taking that support from you last year and other support systems as well. And now I still work with you, and I still have another business coach as well. Making that a priority really shifted a lot of my outlook as well, that I'm not just a yoga teacher, I also run my own business now, which takes a lot of shifting. But having that support network, and funnily that goes back again to social work, where one of the first things I would always do for my clients, one of priorities is to build a support network, to have support, and always we'll talk about the importance to have different networks to fall back onto, that you're not alone. So why am I not doing that for myself? I know you just get so stuck in your head when you're at home all day, and it's just such a lonely path as a yoga teacher can be. So allowing myself, one of the courses I did as well, I was like, allowing myself to actually ask questions, because otherwise I would just passively be there and it's like, okay, I'll just listen in. And I was like, okay, no, I'm going to ask questions. I'll really push myself forward. And it makes a huge difference to really support myself in that way, because I don't have to do it all by myself, and other people have walked the path and they can give me give me advice, and just talking about things with other people can really help you to get stuck out of that mode of being stuck in my head all the time.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. It can be a lonely path.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be a lonely path. It is. We can choose to ask for support.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And one thing as well that I noticed through just shifting quickly, because obviously a big part of the course is social impact. What I've noticed recently as well, that before I would probably, because I'm quite an emotional person, I get really anxious in those states, and then I withdraw and I don't do anything, even though there's problems in the world that I don't agree with. But I've really noticed myself as well recently, is again what's going on in the world, to have, when I support myself properly and I'm in that state of actually I can socially engage, I'm much more capable of taking those steps of social engagement, of social impact, and to push that forward. And again, I didn't thought that was possible, because I thought I'm just a general anxious person. I'm just too worried all the time. I can't do that. But learning that, what now trickled down from the course last year is like, okay, it's like, no, if I actually support myself properly, I can take the right steps to give proper social impact in the world. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Fabi. Yeah, it's sometimes it can feel, as you just said, the only option is I just have to block it out.
Yeah.
But when we are resourced enough, so those inner resources, and when we have got support around us and we pace ourselves, we work with our own rhythm, then we have got capacity to hold much more. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So Fabi, thank you so much for taking time to speak with me, but I just would like you to share your contact details, your website, if other teachers, other practitioners are interested in the work that you do, or students that might want to connect in that way, or frontline workers, if you could just share the contact details and your website, that would be really great.
Yes, sure. So my website is Fabienne Belgardt yoga.com. We're all surrounded by my name. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook. You will all find me through Fabienne Belgardt Yoga. I kept it quite streamlined, so it should be easy to find. Probably best to write it down though. And yeah, I do a lot of online work, so I'm not just based in Worthing anymore. Around one-to-one work, memberships and classes, to offer that support in a quite variety of ways to work with me.
Great, that's lovely, thank you. And you've got a Facebook group as well?
Yes, yeah, sorry, forgot about that. Yoga for Rest and Self-Care, where I share a lot more resources around rest and how to support yourself and that sustainable self-care. Where I do like weekly lives as well now, where I talk about different topics, to just give some resources and to empower yourself to understand your own responses better.
Lovely, thank you, Fabi. So I will add your details as well, so if people are interested, they can follow the crumbs and come to you and connect with you and see what you do. So thank you so much again, Fabi, for taking this time to talk with me.
Thank you for
today.
having me. It was lovely to chat.
Thank you.